Don't focus on me. How do I do it on this? I am an ordinary girl who loves reading journals, giving you some of my favorite products that I actually use. No one's paying me to say any of this. These are just products that I love and I come back to every month. Hello everybody. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Andy. I hope you're doing really well wherever or whenever in the world that you are. Whenever in your journaling journey you're finding me, welcome. Today we're going to be doing a video really laying some of the groundwork for starting a reading journal. So this is very much Reading Journal 101. If you've been using and creating reading journals for many years, maybe you'll still pick up a new favorite item or a tip or trick in this video. You're also welcome in the comments to build on any other advice, materials, recommendations. Feel free to leave that information in the comments so we can share the love, share the information. But this video is definitely primarily for my newbies, my friends out there who have been thinking about creating a reading journal and aren't quite sure what that means or where to start. This video is for you. I want to first start by saying that I am not a professional artist. I have no formal training. This is truly just a hobby of mine. I want to just name that you don't need any of those formal skills to have fun and to make a reading journal. Reading journals really can be whatever you want them to be. There is no right or wrong way to journal. So everyone is welcome and everyone should have a reading journal. I mean, if you read. If you don't, maybe journal about other things. I don't know. All right, so what is a reading journal? The short answer is a reading journal looks different for everybody, but generally speaking, it's a way to keep track of your reading, to review books that you've read, or to create spreads that are about the books. Maybe it's a collage, maybe it's a journal entry, maybe it's something I've never even thought of. So there's lots and lots of different kinds of reading journal styles. Some people keep reading journals just so they can kind of keep track from a data perspective. They want to know how many books that they read, how many books in which month, what kinds of books, the genres, the page count, etc. So some people create electronic or physical reading journals to keep track of that nitty-gritty number information. Some people use it more as a way to capture their thoughts about a book or highlight quotes that really stood out to them when they were reading a book, or to engage in some introspection around what does this book evoke in me, or what reflections do I have about the content that I've learned or been exposed to. Some people use them as really creative things. They create collages, or they draw, or they doodle, they do fan art. Really, the world is your oyster, and there, like I said before, there is no right or wrong way. Anything you want your reading journal to be is fine. So now that we've laid the groundwork for what is a reading journal, I think it's important to ask yourself a couple of questions before you actually get started. I think the first thing you want to ask yourself is, what is this journal for? What am I trying to do? What am I trying to capture? What information? What is the why behind creating a reading journal for you? For me, I created a reading journal for a couple reasons. One is I love that they're catalogs of books that I've read, my reviews of books, competitions, readathons. I love that it's sort of a moment in time and I can look back to years past and just see what was I interested in reading? What were my thoughts at the time? And I find so much joy in looking back through my previous reading journals, my previous spreads. That's my why, is I like to capture the books that I read and I like to look back and see what I thought at the time. Another question that I think is important to ask is, do you want to create something physically in a paper notebook, or would you prefer something electronic? I think it's important to figure out what feels more accessible for you, what feels more realistic, what feels more feasible for you, and whatever you're wanting this journal to be. The third thing isn't so much a question to ask, but just as something to keep in mind, is that there is so much bullet journaling, reading journal, there's so much content out there. People have so many different materials, and it can be really tempting to buy all of the things. I know that I am guilty of that, and my bank account was so sad. And so I want to emphasize that you don't need all of those things. I think if you come back to your why, what you're hoping this reading journal to do for you, and buy or use the materials that suit that need, that suit that purpose, rather than getting everything just in case, you want to start slow. So I would say it's so tempting to buy all of the things, but just pause and think about what materials you're really needing. And you may not even have to buy anything new. Sorry, you guys can hear my cat Francis. Yes. Is just needing a little love and attention. I think we've laid enough groundwork. We've talked about what is a reading journal and some questions or things to keep in mind before you actually begin. And so again, I want to emphasize that honestly, you don't need to buy anything. You could use your notes app, you could use, Canva or Google Docs or your iPad or literally any paper and writing utensil that you already have. That is beautiful. That is perfectly fine. If you're wanting to do a little bit more, or maybe you've been doing that for a while and are looking for a baby step way to kind of up your game or increase your creativity or just expand and try new things, then I am excited to share with you just some of my favorite materials. Again, coming from somebody who got sucked into buying way too many things, trying way too many products, I've been able to kind of filter out the ones that I actually come back to time and time again, the ones that I love and reuse, and the things that I actually think are worth your money. Please ignore Frances. She's got her bell toy and I can't take away her joy. So we're just gonna try your best to ignore it. All right, here are some of my favorite things. I have tried both electronic and paper reading journals. I sort of use them for different things. My electronic reading journals, I tend to keep more of my data in these days because I like that you can create pretty graphs and I don't have to do any of that manual labor. But if you are in the market to buying a physical journal, I'm not gonna lie, it's so basic, but the Archer and Olive journals are absolutely, let me lift them up, are absolutely some of my favorites. I love the simplicity of them. The 160 GSM paper is so solid and dependable. You can do so much. I've seen people hardcore watercolor, paint, collage. I just think these are really high quality. They are not cheap. So if you're looking for a dupe, honestly, I've not really expanded much. I've really loved the Archer and Olive journals. I know that you can get the Leuchtturm 1917 journals. That was the first one that I got, and for me it wasn't ideal because I didn't like how see-through the pages were, so it didn't quite work for what I was looking for. But I do think that's a good starter one where you're not wanting to commit to like $20, $30, or $40. That Leuchtturm, I'll put a picture up here, is a good place to start. Now let's talk about pens. I've tried a lot of pens in my days, and the pens that I keep coming back to are these Sakura Micron, what are they called? Sakura Pigma Micron. Can you see, is it focusing? There you go. These pens are my favorite. My favorite nib size is the 01. That's the one I use the most. It's my favorite for actually writing in my journal, like when I'm doing a list of the books that I've read or my TBR. This is probably my most used pen. I like the larger pen tip sizes, but this is definitely my favorite. And I feel like this is like a cult classic. Like I feel like this is not a new pen. So if you were thinking about it, I would get it. I love it. The other pen that I really love is the Sharpie S Gel pen. The medium tip. I use that pen pretty regularly and it ran out of ink and I just haven't purchased a new one. But that's another like really solid pen for day-to-day journaling. My favorite white pen is this Uniball Signo Broad. Let me see if I can get it to focus. Guys, I'm just on my phone. I don't have a fancy camera. Either way, I'll put all the information in the description box down below. This is by far my favorite white pen. I find that with other pens, especially the Jelly Roll white pen, things bleed, like markers and stuff bleed and it's hard to actually white things out. This is the one I feel like has worked the most across different pens, markers, brush pens, midliners, etc. Like this is the most reliable. Now, again, I'm not an artist. I know there's some chemical, sciencey reasons because some are alcohol-based and water-based, and I don't know all those details, so sorry. Speaking of the Jelly Roll pens, I do love the Jelly Roll, the metallic ones. These are such fun pens to use. I'm trying to like hold them up for you guys. These Jelly Roll metallic pens are a blast. Now, you do have to be careful, like the smudge situation is real if you don't take into account that these do take a little bit of time to dry, but they're really fun. They're really vibrant, they're really colorful, and they're a great accent to a very simple spread. Can add a little pizzazz. So I'm a big fan of the Jelly Roll pens. Now, if you purchase anything from this list of recommendations, these are the brush pens that I would recommend you buy. There's so many different styles, brands on the market, but I think the Tombow dual brush pens are phenomenal. They are easy to use. There's a huge color range. I love the brush tip and the little, the little nib guy. I actually, for Christmas this year, we did this very cute stocking stuffer idea where everybody put something that they love in everybody's stocking. It had to be, under $5 or $10. And I ended up getting everyone a little duet of Tombow dual brush pens because they are truly just my absolute favorite. Some of my favorite colors or packs, the cottage pack is my favorite. That was the first one that I bought, and it's the one that I like the most. I also love the portrait pack. I feel like it has some really great browns and neutral colors. And then a couple like standouts are, I really love the N98 and the N95 grayscale brush pens. They are just so stunning. I'm such a big fan. I will say though, they are not cheap at all. And so if you are looking for a dupe that has a similar color range, it might not give you all that a dual tip brush pen can, but the Crayola Super Tip markers are also excellent. You can get them at any craft store. I mean, you honestly could get the Tombow dual brush pens anywhere, but this is my probably second most common used marker that I own. And believe me, I have an entire drawer back here of markers. I've got the midliners. I've got other kinds of brush pens. I mean, I have so many. And let me tell you, the Tombow dual brush pens and my Crayola Super Tips are by far the best. They're so versatile. You can do some calligraphy with these if you watch some like YouTube tutorials on holding your pen and the pressure and all of that. So these are the things I would recommend. The Tombow dual brush pens or just a classic. All right, when I was first starting and I wasn't feeling as interested in or confident in my drawing abilities, which has improved over time because, like anything, the more you practice, the better you get. And so where I started before I started feeling more confident with that was I used a lot of stickers and washi tape, like of all sizes, patterns, all kinds of brands. And let me tell you, I've spent a fortune on washi tape. And not all washi tapes are created equal. I would say my favorite places to get washi tape are definitely the Washi Tape Shop. That's probably my favorite. That's where I buy the most of my tapes from. Paper Geek Co. is another great website for buying washi tape. Notebook Therapy also has some really beautiful washi tapes. And the Kawaii Pen Shop is another really nice place to get some washi tape. Don't get this stuff from Amazon. I know it's cheap and I know it's tempting, but the quality is so bad if you don't use them right away. Like, hold on. This was one of the first one, like from the first like variety packs from Amazon that I got. And like, the adhesion is so bad. Look, I can't even peel it off in one piece anymore. So unless you're gonna use them right away, they're just really not great quality. And if you're gonna spend your money, I'd rather you buy fewer things that you actually love and are gonna use than just buying in bulk, because as somebody who did that, it's such a waste of money. As for stickers and collage materials, one of the years, what year was it? Whatever year this year was when I had my coffee reading journal, My theme this year was like all collage. And so I only used collaging things. So I had stickers and I printed out pictures and I bought a ton of materials. I still have several drawers full of collage materials, so I really overdid it. But some of my favorite places, honestly, to buy stickers and collage materials was Etsy. I highly recommend looking for local vendors on Etsy for like sticker pads and such. You can also get one of these like nifty little sticker books. This one I have got is Jam Studio. I don't know if I picked this up at Michael's or where, but it has little sleeves and you can kind of stick your stickers in there just to create some organized chaos, I guess. I really found the most success and the highest quality products on Etsy. I can go back through my purchases, and if there's any Etsy shops that really stand out as being fantastic for collage materials, I'll make sure I leave that information in the description down below. I also really like Redbubble for stickers. If you're looking for like bigger stickers or ones that are directly related to a series that you're reading, I think Redbubble is a great resource to buy stickers from. The last couple of like material things I just wanted to put on your radar is I'm a big fan of using double-sided adhesive scrapping tape, scrapbooking tape. This one that I have currently is from Tombow, but I've used other knockoff brands. I don't think, pick up whatever you can find, but I find it's really useful, especially if you are thinking about doing more collage style, or even just occasionally like putting in covers of your books or whatever. I find that this is a really like quick and easy way to do that with minimal mess. Another item that I use every time I create a spread, I find, is a paper cutter. And this one is the Fiskars, like kind of portable paper cutter, and it has like a little slidey guy. Mine's old, so it's a little janky, but this is so helpful. It's helpful when I'm cutting out book covers and I'm putting them in. It's just helps me do it a little bit more quickly than if I'm taking my hand scissors and just cutting around every edge. It's great for collaging because you can kind of resize bigger sheets of paper if you're not gonna rip them. I just find that I use this really, really regularly, and it's a really thin, portable little tool. I also bought a gazillion other tools, and I just find that these are probably the two that I get the most use out of. You don't need the corner edge cutters, and you don't need the sharp knife thing. You don't need the circle tracers. Like, you really don't, especially when you're first starting. You really don't need those things. Sorry, one more thing. Another great tool to have in your little journaling kit is just a good, solid eraser. I have no idea what brand this is, but I bought a pack of 3, and this one has lasted me like 4 or 5 years. And it's just great, especially if you're drawing with pencil beforehand. It's just nice to have like a big old eraser to kind of erase all those pencil lines. All right, so those were some of my favorite, most used, most cherished products when it comes to my journaling. As you can tell, I have many, many journals. That's probably my favorite way to keep track of my reading. I have the most fun creating spreads. I have the most fun looking through the physical books. I do find my electronic spreads to be really functional for me. And because I create content, I like to keep some of my review information online because it's easier for me to like Command F search for certain buzzwords or themes or whatever. But if you're not doing anything like this, then I'm biased and I really, really like a physical journal for a reading journal. A couple of tips that I have as you're just starting is, number one is to do a lot of research. Look on Pinterest, look on YouTube, look on Instagram. There are so many phenomenal content creators, some of which make their full living doing bullet journal content. They have so many examples of different themes, spreads. I mean, there's such a wealth of knowledge out in the world. And so I encourage you to look up anything you can. There's different journaling methods, there's different styles and aesthetics, there's different spreads and templates, there's different hand lettering tools and techniques and tips. I mean, truly, like, before you get started, spend a little bit of time, or a lot of bit of time if you're me, researching to help you better identify what your why is for your reading journal, what you're hoping to do with it or get out of it, and just to feel inspired and start to get those creative juices flowing so that you have a sense of what your vision is for your reading journal. My second tip is if and when you start to, build your collection of brush pens and markers or whatever, to take some time to create, I don't know what you'd call it, paint swabs, like little swabs of all of the different colors. That way you can kind of see what each marker looks like on the actual paper from your journal. Like this is actually a piece of paper that I cut out from one of my original journals so that I could see, what does 946 look like on the paper. It also helps me when I have a vision for what I want to spread to do. Sometimes just glancing at these swabs can help me pinpoint like what color combinations I want to use. It's just like a really helpful tool. I refer back to these especially every time I make a reading spread. I come back and I try and look at, what do these look like in real life? Not just in the marker cap. I think about that with nail polish, how nail polish in the bottle always ends up looking a little bit different than it does on your nail. The same is true for markers. Similarly, I would recommend doing the same with the washi tapes that you purchase. I think it's, again, important to see what does it actually look like on the paper. Some washi tapes are more sheer than you're expecting. Some are more opaque. Some are bigger, some are smaller. The color looks different on the washi tape alone versus on the paper. And these are great things to reference to. I know, I'm thinking about Joshi Corinne, like one of my favorite bullet journaling content creators. If you haven't watched her stuff, like please do. Honestly, if you're Googling reading journal or bullet journaling, you've probably already watched some of her videos. But I know that I think she has like an entire journal just of her swabs. So if you're feeling really inspired or you have that much stuff, that might be a great tool, but I just kind of have mine loose. Another tip that I have is that if you are feeling a bit apprehensive of like actually putting pen to paper, it could be helpful to have a backup journal. This is kind of my backup tester journal where if I have an idea or like an outline, I'll jot it down. I'll like practice what I want. Oh, it's hard to see because it's in pen or pencil, but I'll practice what I want something to look. I'll practice hand lettering. I'll, play around with different spread layouts or color combinations. I'll spend some time trying to figure out what color combos do I want. Sometimes I'll even like create a spread in here if in my actual journal I'm wanting to make a change, but I'm not feeling really confident about if I'm gonna really like that change. Sometimes I'll recreate that spread here and add that change. So if I like it, I'll do it in my real journal. And if I don't, like, phew, it's just a tester journal. So it doesn't obviously have to be an actual journal. You could use printer paper, notebook paper, you could do that anywhere. But I do think if you're feeling a bit hesitant about putting pen to paper in your real official journal, a practice space can be really helpful. That's all the tips, tricks, recommendations I have for you right now. I have a feeling this might be a series maybe, so I'm gonna tentatively call this part 1. If you have more questions, you want more recommendations or tips, leave those questions, comments down below, and I can create another video kind of addressing some of those concerns or questions or wonderings. I love my reading journals. I love talking about reading journals. I love this little piece of creativity in my life. I hope you take away either some inspiration to like finally take the plunge to do it. Maybe you've been indecisive about whether or not you want to purchase a particular material. Maybe based on my list of Andy's favorites, I've inspired you to do so. I really just want more people to create reading journals. I find so much joy in making mine, and so I want to spread that to the world. So I hope that you start a reading journal this year or next year or whenever. The beauty of reading journals, of bullet journals or whatever, is that they are individual, they are unique, they are handmade, and part of that territory means that they're not going to be perfect. There's going to be spelling errors or, not perfectly straight lines or patterns and designs that don't quite match perfectly. And that is okay. That's what makes them so charming and endearing and beautiful to you. So never fuss or worry. You can always fix it. You can always turn it into something beautiful. It's just supposed to be for fun. Keep an eye out for part 2, maybe, if I can think of more tips, tricks, and recommendations. If you're curious about what some of my journals look like, I have a playlist about, my flip throughs and me creating some reading journal spreads. So I'll link that below as well so you can take a look. Feel free to like, subscribe, click the bell if you're curious about future videos. Yes, I do a lot of posts around reading and books, but I do at least once a month usually try and post some reading journal content. So if that sounds interesting to you, subscribe. All right, that's it. The end. I'll see you guys in the next video soon. Bye.